what are those things that you have encountered that might serve as challenge, and at the same time that might serve as the achievement that you achieve in these two offices?
Yeah. Okay. I think I'll start with the challenges aspect. I remember while we were serving at the Directorate of Students Rights, back in 2019, I think I was protocol officer. So back then, even while advocating for the rights of students, in these respective universities across board, you face a lot of challenges, especially challenges not only from within but from without also. Sometimes we receive calls of threats from outside, telling you to back off
So they
particular
keep back
matters,
on,
don't
especially
proceed
when
with certain matters.
when it involves a person with a
Exactly when
big hand.
it involves a lot of influential hands, don't do this, don't do that, you
Yeah.
receive a lot of calls and threats
Mm.
like that, and then most times also, because we are law students and we are restricted in respect of certain things that we can do.
Okay.
Sometimes it's
Good everyone, Abdullah Adebayo Abdullah is my name. I'm the founder of Abdullah Legal Academy and also a tutor at Abdullah Legal Academy. Together with me in the studio is Senator Yasir Abubakar Sabuk, the current president of the Law Students Association of Nigeria. And today I shall be having a dialogue with him concerning student rights generally. You are welcome to the studio today.
thank you very
Please,
much for having me.
please say words to the people that are watching us now.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us, and I look forward to fruitful deliberations.
Among those things that I've prepared to ask you today is that we're talking about the rights of students in relation to Law Students Association of Nigeria, and we know that the Law Students Association of Nigeria has a section that caters for the right of students. This right, is it restricted to the law students alone, or it is open to every student that are presently studying in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you very much. So, when it comes to the rights of students generally, it covers not only fundamental rights alone, because just like I always say, fundamental rights, students' rights basically is also sui generis in nature. It is a particular kind of right, so it encompasses not only just students' rights, not only fundamental human rights alone, it covers fundamental human rights and some other, special of rights, also that students might have in the university, your rights to do, certain things, your right to file complaints, and then the right to be heard in respect of tribunals of inquiry set up by law, and all such other matters like that. And basically the scope of students' rights covers not only law students alone, because that has been a subject of contention over time. It has been a subject of criticism over time. Some people who don't really know the workings of the association, believing that students' rights under the association covers only law
Law
students
students.
alone, but that is generally not the perception. The idea is that it covers all students generally. I remember when I was because I started as protocol officer for the National Directorate of Students Rights before I became national director, and then subsequently national president. When I was protocol officer, a lot of the cases we did, at the time during the then national director, Munir Ishaq, who was my national director at the time, we handled a lot of cases involving even, non-law students, sometimes even having to go down there to see, the nature of rights violated.
Okay, it means that the Directorate of Students Right under Law Students Association of Nigeria does not only cover the law students; it's open to every student.
It's open to every student, and wherever there are any, issues relating to violation, we can always come in to, see how we can assist
and
these students.
it is not restricted to only fundamental rights. Even though I'm coming
Yeah.
to that question,
Yeah.
the second question I have for you today, Your Excellency, is that this Directorate of Student Right that we're talking about, what are those things that it covers? Does it cover only the criminal aspect of law, or the civil aspect of law alone, or it covers the both civil and the criminal aspect of law?
Well, in respect of that, it depends on the on the area you're looking at it from. But if you look at human rights generally,
Yes.
human rights is not it can be civil, sometimes it can be criminal depending on the circumstance. But
Exactly.
in respect of students' rights, it covers, not only fundamental rights, just like I said earlier. It covers all the fundamental human rights. Whenever rights
Okay.
of students are violated, we can, come in to assist. And then, of course, students' rights that are peculiar to, students, alone also in that respect. So it covers fundamental human rights, generally human rights.
It covers generally human
Yes, human
rights,
rights.
and human rights is not just civil. There are
Exactly.
some of the scenarios that have criminal elements
Yeah,
in it and
exactly.
also civil
Yeah,
elements. So,
depending on the circumstance.
and Law Students Association of Nigeria,
Of
especially
course.
Directorate of Students Right,
Yeah,
caters for all these things.
of course.
Very grateful. I'm very grateful for your answer. Another thing that I have here to ask you today is that you, as a director at the Directorate of Students Right, under the body known as Law Students Association of Nigeria in the past, and presently the president of the Law Student Association of Nigeria generally. What are those things that you have encountered that might serve as challenge, and at the same time that might serve as the achievement that you achieve in these two offices?
Yeah. Okay. I think I'll start with the challenges aspect. I remember while we were serving at the Directorate of Students Rights, back in 2019, I think I was protocol officer. So back then, even while advocating for the rights of students, in these respective universities across board, you face a lot of challenges, especially challenges not only from within but from without also. Sometimes we receive calls of threats, from outside, telling you to back off
Telling
particular
to back
matters,
off,
don't
especially
proceed with certain matters.
when it involves a person with a
Exactly,
big hand.
when it involves a lot of influential hands, don't do this, don't do that, you receive a lot of calls and threats like that, and then most times also, because we are law students and we are restricted in respect of certain things that we can do. Sometimes it's quite difficult having to do these things as law students, even though we've found a way of partnering with lawyers, and law firms and seeing how we can,
Please, can
actually
I
promote this.
let me comment, sir, please.
Yeah,
You just say that as law students, because we are law students,
yeah.
we are restricted to do some certain things, even though it relates to human rights. What
Yeah.
are those things? Can you
Yeah,
give me
for
one or two
example, you
things?
cannot, as a law student, you don't have right of audience, of course, in court.
Exactly.
Non-lawyers
Yes.
don't have right of audience in court. So
Exactly.
when these cases involve, having to go to court, there's, basically little to nothing you can do. And sometimes you need the influence of, lawyers, to actually come in, even if it does not entail going to court. Sometimes you just need the experience, from those who have seen it happen, and then those who have actually been doing it.
Okay.
So you need all of that expertise coupled with the fact that covers for the areas where you cannot actually go to court and
just because law
enforce.
students, we are just being trained the theoretical aspect of it.
Exactly.
The lawyers have seen the real aspect of it, and they
Exactly.
have so much experience. They can
Exactly.
always give us the best advice that
Exactly.
is available for
Exactly.
such a kind of
So
scenario.
that's the point. That's part of also the challenges, and then problems relating to students not voicing out also. Sometimes it's a problem, people don't really feel the need to voice out, and largely you wouldn't see it as their fault majorly, because there have been a lot of back and forth in respect of human rights issues in Nigeria, especially when it involves influential hands. Sometimes people feel that they feel discouraged, to come out and say, okay, this is the problem, or this is what happened to me. Except where one person voices out, and then you see others
People will
subsequently
now
also
come
saying,
out.
okay, I was also a victim and whatever. So all these are challenges that have happened, but that doesn't mean there are no prospects. There have been a lot of achievements. For example, we had, I think we had massive numbers of partnerships and collaborations. Part of the partnerships we struck in 2019.
Kudos to you.
Yeah, when I was protocol officer, I was that, and then Munir was my national director, Munir Isaac. He's a lawyer now.
Yes. I know, my lord,
Yes,
former chief judge of
former chief
the
justice of LAWSAN.
LAWSAN.
So I mean, he orchestrated that partnership with Gender Mobile Initiative. They have an app where you can report gender-based violence, sexual violence, and all of
gender-based violence.
Yes,
they have an app.
And harassment. Yes, they have an app where you can do that. So we partnered with them at some point. And then personally, I think when I was national director of students' rights, I innovated, what we refer to as the complaint hotlines.
Complaint
Yes,
hotlines.
complaint hotlines where
Okay.
students can call directly, because we have zonal directors of student rights, and then,
Okay.
we have the national director at the top,
Okay.
so
Okay.
all the zonal directors report back to the national, director, and then the national director reports to the president, so we had that complaint hotlines for all the zones,
Okay.
we shared out numbers consistently where you can, if you are from this zone, and you have a violation of student, you can call the zonal director immediately through the hotline provided,
Through the hotline
and then we created something we call the complaint registry, where all the hotlines, are basically under, so that complaint registry is where you can call at any time, to tell us, okay, this is the problem, rights have been violated in so university, this is the problem, and then from there, we start to, come in, and then it gave us first-hand information as to a lot of things that were going on in some universities. Then other things we intended doing, which we didn't really get to finish executing before we left office, was partnership with law firms, official partnerships with law firms in the fight, for students' rights. So this is just, amongst a few, and then of course raising awareness. We've been very consistent in raising awareness to, students as to their rights, within the university community, especially, and then fundamental, rights generally. Yeah.
Okay, among these achievements, if I am permitted to ask,
of course,
are there some of the scenarios some cases which you have acted upon? You can share all the stories so that
yeah. There were incidences reported. For example, I think there was an incident of, we write a lot of times to police stations, especially that are close by.
Okay.
There was a reported incident at I think Nnamdi Azikiwe University one time, and I remember we wrote a letter to a police station very close to, the school, and it led to, the addressing of, that particular matter. And then there are several cases of assault.
That's Nnamdi Azikiwe University of a thing. I think I was also in the picture then.
Yeah.
I saw the notice. I think it involved a police officer, a police officer.
Yes, exactly.
And the police officer later had to tender apology.
Yes,
at the same
exactly,
time,
exactly.
Gave the
We wrote a lot of letters, in that regard, and we pushed, to ensuring that happened. And then there are several cases of assault. We posted most of them in our social media handles. Of course, in the LAWSAN social media handles. Also, there were several cases of assault, and all of these things, and we intervened. And very recently, the case involving the dean of University of Calabar also.
Yes, University of
we
Calabar,
wrote letters to the vice chancellor, and then we followed up to ensure that our letters were to the effect that proper investigation should be done, into this thing, so that we're able to our students are safe.
If not because I'm not at liberty to ask where the matter is at now, I would have asked about where and how is it been doing. But no problem. I think I know that at the end of the day, we will know what has actually transpired and how it has been dealt with. Kudos to you. We are very grateful for your hard working towards the student right across the various faculties of law in Nigeria. And the other time you are talking about the provision of hotlines, and through this is where I will ask the last question that I have for you today. This sometimes when a student encounter a kind of violation of his or her right, and even though they might know that they have some rights and they know that there is a kind of redress that they can seek if such a thing happens, but knowing how to go about the right, knowing how to enforce the rights, knowing how to seek the redress is another thing. There is something about knowing the thing that you have, and there's something about knowing how to enforce and how to ask for such a thing that you have. Is there any procedure that a law student or any other student can follow to seek for their rights, for enforcement of their rights whenever any kind of violation occur?
Yeah, of course, there are a number of ways. As a matter of fact, I like to law students are always always agitate, going to court, but even the law provides that all available remedies should be exhausted, before resorting to the court. So there are a lot of administrative procedures in the university community. For example, if it relates to a particular faculty, where a student, where there's a violation of the right of any student, for example, the level coordinator of the class can be consulted.
Mm.
It can be reported to him. Apart from that, the heads of departments within the faculty also. Apart from
Okay.
that, there's the deans of the faculties also. And
Exactly.
then, of course, at large, we have the deans of student affairs. We have student
Exactly.
representatives, even that you
Exactly.
can even start. So
Exactly.
it takes, there's a lot of, there are chains, you can
Exactly.
use even
Yeah.
before. You can start with student representatives.
Exactly.
From student representatives, go up to the HODs of the departments, deans of the departments,
Departments.
deans of student affairs, even up till,
Yeah.
it reaches the vice
This thing
chancellor.
that
And
you
then
have
apart from that,
just said earlier
yeah,
now, there is no way you will report to the level coordinator, the head of department, the
yeah,
dean of the faculty, the student affairs unit,
yeah.
student representative, that a kind of redress,
Already
yes,
was just
a kind of
emanates,
remedy
from
will
there.
be
It has
needed
to
on.
come. And what I
Exactly.
always advise
Exactly.
is that
Not that.
whenever you are writing any letter of complaint, for example,
Mm,
if you are even afraid of, one person, just one person thrashing out your issue,
mm,
maybe one person you are reporting to might have interest. If you
mm,
write the letter, don't write to him alone.
mm.
Copy all
Yes,
other
exactly.
interested parties. If you're writing
Exactly.
to probably
Exactly.
the president of your faculty to seek redress, copy the HOD, copy the dean, copy,
Exactly.
all the
Exactly.
necessary parties so that
Exactly.
your letter has to receive attention, because somebody is
Exactly.
going to say, okay, what's up with this letter? What is going
Exactly.
on? And,
What
in
have
terms
you?
of following up, it's going to be much
Exactly.
easier
There will
because you
be.
have copied the person at the beginning,
Eh,
and the
exactly.
person knows, how the case is going and will be interested in knowing, the finality. So if one person is not willing to thrash it out, next person is there.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm very grateful for giving us audience at Abdaliga Academy
Yeah, of
for this
course.
kind of wonderful interview.
Thank you for having me.
Once again, I am in the studio with my learned uh, senior. If we are in the faculty of law here, we are learned, but immediately after we move out of faculty, we are still learning. And but within the faculty, he is the president, and outside the faculty, he is the president of Law Students Association of Nigeria. For every law student in Nigeria, this is our president, and I feel honored to have the privilege to have him here in the studio today, because he doesn't have so much time. He has to create some of he has to spare some of his time to be in the studio with me here today. On behalf of Public Academy and I myself, I'm very grateful for the audience that you have given us today.
Thank you for
And
having me.
at the same time, uh, during the course of the interview, we were able to discuss a lot of things. We were able to discuss the scope of the student rights as regards the Directorate of Right under the Law Students Association of Nigeria, LAWSAN. We've been able to discuss the scope of how it's been done, the criminal aspect of law, and also the civil aspect of law, which are embodied under the fundamental human rights, and some of the achievement that he has achieved, and at the same time the procedure that anybody can follow to make sure that they get their uh, they get their right enforced whenever it has been violated. We are very grateful for your time, and also thank you so much for watching from the beginning to the end. Abdullah Adebayo Abro is my name once again. Thank you very much.